What everyone's waiting for? Garlic time. This is a head of music. If you watched my video from last year, I only got to plant this in November. Welcome back. Well, it is November the 2nd, and I had hoped to be making this video 7 days ago, but that did not work out. We've already had our first not only frost but hard freeze that all happened at the same time. We had not had any frosts, and in the matter of 3 days we had a night that went as low as 27, 25, and 23, I think, are the recorded temperatures out here. So we definitely already had the hard freeze. I have things that I need to move around, etc., because they definitely don't like that weather. But winter is on the way, and fall is definitely progressing. It's time though to plant all my alliums that I'm going to plant this fall. So garlic, onions, elephant garlic, and those sorts of things, multiplying onions, etc. Last spring I raised bulb onions from seed, planted them out, and was not very successful, which is okay. And the best I got was by late summer I had small, like thumb-sized bulbs. Harvested some of them, left some of them. A lot of them finally started growing here a few weeks ago, the ones that I left in the ground. But I'm going to try something different. I bought some onion sets, and we're going to try to grow some of those. We're also going to put garlic in the ground. So last year I bought seed garlic. I bought 3 different varieties. I had Music, Siberian, and Lourdes Italian, all of which did grow last year. Check out the video where I compared planting that in November versus planting that in January. The conclusion was planting in November was better. So we're going to plant the majority of our garlic here in November today, but I'm still going to, I've reserved back a little bit that I will plant in January, like the first days of January, because I want to test that again. I mean, this has only been 1 year that I tested it, and I feel good about the results. That's why I'm going to plant the majority of my garlic now. But I want to reserve a little bit back and basically run the experiment again. You always want to replicate your experiment. So that's what I'm going to do. We'll see how that works out. I also have Egyptian walking onions in the garden that I've already kind of moved around and planted. I'll show those here when I go to plant the onions. And it's also time I'm going to plant shallots at the same time. If you reference the video I did, of the 3 varieties of shallots that I had Yellow Moon, Gray Grizel, and Dutch Red. The Dutch Red definitely performed better when they'd been planted in January, whereas the Yellow Moon and the Gray Grizel performed better when they were planted in November. So I'm primarily planting the Gray Grizel and the Yellow Moons now, and then I also invested in some more shallot seed stock because I really like the shallots. Having worked in kitchens, shallots were kind of a bougie thing, right? Oh, you're throwing some shallots. They're expensive in the grocery store. They take more labor because they're smaller. They take more labor because they're smaller, but I've really enjoyed having them as we've eaten through them. We've eaten almost all the ones that we grew, and so I'm going to plant a bunch of those. I wanted to kind of extend the type of varieties I have, and I'll talk through that for you. Really excited to have some new shallots for the garden this year. These came from Piedmont Farm and Garden, and they came really quick. Of course I haven't grown them, but they all feel really firm. So 3 new varieties of shallots. This is a Nero shallot. You see it's kind of a red looking shallot. This is a Monique. It's more of a banana shaped elongated shallot. And then this is called a Lorient shallot, and it's kind of a combination of the two. So they're all pinkish or red, and I don't have any like that. The Gray Grisels are gray, the Yellow Moons are more yellow-white, And what was it? The red. Oddly enough, the Dutch red aren't as red in the center as I expected, even though they kind of have a reddish hue on the outside. So I'm going to plant the majority of these now. Again, I want to save some of them back to plant in January because I've never planted these before. Maybe these will do better when planted more in the spring. 4 varieties of onions I'm going to plant. One is a super sweet. So these are traditional bulbing onions, about a ½ pound of each. These are red Weathersfield, and these are onion sets, so they're the individual bulbs. These are white Ebenezer, and these are yellow Stuttgarter. Oh, there's one that's starting to rot out, but the rest of them feel really good. So I'm gonna put, I guess I'll save a few back. Oh, that's interesting. Yellow Stuttgarter, there's a couple in here that haven't survived, whereas all the rest of them look really good. Tools are always helpful, and so I made myself a rough tool here. This is a piece of cattle panel. It has 4-inch squares, and I planted my garlic on 4 to 5 inch spacing last year. Actually, the shallots that way. I did them all that way, except for elephant garlic. I planted those wider. So I figured I took this cattle panel. If I want 4-inch spacing, I could put one in the center of each of these squares. If I want 6-inch spacing, I could basically go 1.5 squares, right? So here, and then as opposed to in the center, then on the edge, and then move over 1.5, basically move 1.5 across each time. Or I could even do 8-inch spacing and do 2 squares. So I think that's what I'm gonna use this for. Just have to watch the edges because, you know, it's a little bit sharp. But I like tools, and this should make life easier. Don't forget to have something to make labels with. In this case, it's a old milk jug that I'm gonna cut into strips. And then I've got a permanent marker, also known as a Sharpie. Last year I used a kind of a paint pen, and that worked really great as well. But you want to label your stuff. I've made that mistake before where I don't label it, and then I'm really unhappy with myself later on. Scissors would probably be better, but I don't really want to go back and get scissors. All right, so here, if you'll see here, I already have there's a couple of strawberries in the bed at this end. I'm gonna try to not damage too much. And then around the outside, I actually have all these are the Egyptian walking onions that I divided. I'll be able to tell the difference because they're so different. These Egyptian walking onions get really tall. They can get 2 feet tall, and they produce these bulbs at the top. So they'll look really different than these bulbing onions, which is great. I don't want them to look the same. So we're gonna start with the red Weathersfield, I believe. Let's see here, I think. So 2, 4, 6. I think I can get 6 across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 4 rows of these. The red Weathersfield. I'm gonna basically try to do the same for all of them. 2, 4, that one's. So there's one that I lost due to rotting. All right, so 3 rows of the white Ebenezer. So the yellow Stuttgarter, I believe. Yeah, there's definitely some loss here. That's interesting. There's 1 loss. I'll throw that out. So these 2. There's at least 2. There's 3. All right, 3 lost so far. That's 4. So 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. I think I'm gonna plant all of these now because if they're starting to go, they're not gonna last. There's another one lost. So is that 4 I've lost? 1, 2, 3. That one's gone. There's another one. Wow, these yellow Stuttgarters did not last. So that was 6, I think I lost of the yellow Stuttgarter, which is interesting. I mean, a yellow tomato or a yellow onion. Of course, a yellow onion will go faster than white or red, and that's what we're seeing. These sweets, usually sweet ones are the ones that go first, but I don't see very many in here. We'll see. These are softening a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna plant all these. These are starting to soften too. There's one lost. Yeah, I'm gonna call it 2 lost. All right, so definitely some loss on the yellow and sweets. The whites and the reds seem to survive. All right, I'm gonna plant these about 2 inches down. Honestly, I mean, I could use, think of my, hole to go in, but I don't want to go too far. All right, so here we go. Reds. I always want to make sure that the basal plate, the growing area, is down. That's true for garlic or shallots, any of these alliums. They want to grow down too. Go. Now for the rest of them. So when you're planting, you're obviously going to label. Of course you're going to label, but at the same time, make your life easier. So these are going to be yellows, and then put the whites in between the yellows and the sweets, just for the sake of having some distinction. All right, 4 rows of the yellow. 1, 2, 3, 4. I thought I said 3 before, but I've got 4. There you go. That grid spacer works awesome. The rows are lined up whole lot nearer than last year. So I ended up with, I did 4 rows of the red, 4 rows of the yellow, 3 rows of white, and 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 rows of the sweet. I was short 1 on that last row. Again, the ones on the outside, these are Egyptian walking onions that I moved around and transplanted. I'll show you what the bulbs look like, and I'll fill that out along there and fill out this bed with Egyptian walking onion. So these are Egyptian walking onions, and these are the bulbs that actually form at the top of the plant. So it looks like one of these onions since I just planted, but this actually, the stalk grows out of the ground. One of these stalks grow up 2 feet tall, and these grow on top in clusters. Here's a cluster you can see. It's crazy. And these, you know, I harvested these back in July, and you can store them like this, you can eat them. And now I'm gonna go plant them over there, kind of along the row. I'm gonna put these a little bit deeper. These have already started to sprout a little bit, and that's okay. Pop them down here. These small ones, they'll pull apart. Right here. Like that. And then again, these are other Egyptian walking onion plants. These were the bottoms that when they grow, they kind of multiply at the bottom, and so I separated them. I'm planting them out like this. The tops will die back, which is fine. I'll probably cut them back when we get another hard freeze. I'm going to put a mulch across here, and first I'm going to fertilize, mulch, and then they'll be ready for the winter. These bulbs hopefully will start to take a little bit of root, and they'll sit here over winter. We'll check them once or twice, just see what's happening. So I'm doing a combination. I'm going to do some blood meal because alliums are heavy feeders. They've already gotten a layer of compost on top, but I'm going to sprinkle over some blood meal for now. We'll get some more, you know, in the spring. And some bone meal too. All right, shallots. I'm gonna start with Nero. I'm gonna do 2 rows of 8. And And again, I'm going to use kind of my spacer here and go from there. So I have 3 varieties that I bought, and then I've got the ones from last year. So here we go. And these I buried just a little bit lower, if I remember correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know some people actually do diagonal spacing. That gets them a little bit better. I kind of like the rows. All right, so these are Neros. So what I like to do, I've used a Sharpie. Again, this is just on a piece of milk carton that I cut up. Hey, look. Old labels from last year. And they're starting to break because the UV got to them. So like, here's a label from last year. It survived pretty well, but what I do is I put it down with the label against the wood, and I put it below the level of soil, again to protect it a little bit from the, I didn't know, I thought I'd gotten all these labels out. I'll have to come back through and grab them. But anyway, to protect the plastic against the UV, because they will break with UV. All right, here we go. All right, I was able to get 3 rows of the Lorient shallot. Put the label right in there. And then the Monique. I was able to get 2 rows of Monique. They're much bigger because they're kind of longer. The spacing may be too tight. We'll see. This is similar to what I used last year. Maybe I did 7s instead of 8s, but I think I got 8 across. Then I have, so these are shallots that I bought at the grocery store in Texas. But I saw them and they look cool. Big old shallots. And look at those things, they're massive. I would love to grow some of these. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. I think 6 segments that I can put in the ground. I mean, I guess I was gonna say what's the worst could happen. I guess the worst that could happen could be that they have a disease and it affects everything. Yeah, but I'm gonna try a row of these and see what happens. Because if I could get some to grow this big, that would be awesome. I mean, this is almost a small onion at this point. And that's the one downside to shallots is they're small, and so you know you're not going to use shallots if you have to cut 4 cups of onions for a big pot of chili or something. It just gets old. But they're great for, I mean, dice up a shallot to go in your eggs in the morning, or you know, things like that, and some spinach. They're really, really good. So we'll see. I'm gonna push these in right there. I'm gonna give them a little bit more space. Next time I do this, I'm gonna pay more attention to the spacing I'm gonna use. But anyway, I got 9 across this way. These are yellow moon shallots. I got 2 rows plus 3. So what is that? 2 rows of 9 is 18 plus 3 is 21. So I got, I don't know why. These are the gray gazelles, and you can see some of them are starting to sprout. So I'm planting the majority of them now. Maybe I'm planting all of them. I'll have to go back and look. These are, so the wrapper on these is super tough. So when it comes to peeling them to eat them, they're harder. But they have a really nice flavor. I think I've got 2 or 3 rows worth of this. We'll see. Almost. Well, 1, 2 rows. I guess, and then this is half a row with the yellow moon, and this is a half a row. So about 3 rows, a little more. So it's 27, somewhere between 27 and 30 gray gazelles planted. An old tag that'll work. Look at this. So this is at the end of this bed. This is elephant garlic. A couple of bulbs that I didn't catch. There's also a couple of garlics that are coming up. I'm just gonna throw them towards the end. There's no garlic or elephant garlic going in this bed, so I'm not concerned about it being mixed up. It'll just be interesting. Let's just carry this over, kind of like potatoes that get left in the bucket and come back to life the next year. So if you watched one of my other videos about my 22 to 23 plantings of garlics, shallots, etc., you'll know that my Dutch red shallots that I planted in January of last year did far better than my Dutch reds that I planted in November of last year. So being planted later, at least last year, seemed to work. So am I going to plant all of them just in this coming January? No, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to repeat the experiment. So I've got 2.5 rows worth of Dutch red I'm planting now, and then the rest I'm holding off, and I'll plant in 4 weeks here and see if there's a difference again trying to replicate the experiment. One note is one of those Dutch red here I noticed just beginning to sprout, so it'll be interesting to see the ones I hold to January, how well they hold. I also planted 9 multiplying onion down towards the end. I don't remember which ones I thought these came from. I don't remember. And then I've got some more I'll plant later on. But 9 multiplying onion, or potato onion, as some people call them. We'll see how those do. All right, what everyone's waiting for? Garlic time. This is a head of music. If you watched my video from last year, I only got to plant this in November, not November and January, and the fact was the seed stock I got was soft when I got it, and so I just couldn't let it continue to store. I had to plant it all, but I have held some back. I'm going to plant some in January this year. Music is a hard neck, which means the centerpiece is hard. Right there, I could hit you with it, it would hurt. A couple of ways, you see the root's still on it, that's the way I cured it. A couple ways to do this. You can try to pop each off individually, which is kind of a pain. The other thing you can do is hit this on something hard, like a log. Sometimes, like that, sometimes that will help. What I found, if I grab it and kind of rotate it a little bit, this will start to come off, and then all you have to do is pop these apart. Once you get one, usually the rest come pretty easily. Sometimes you can grab what's left and then basically twist or pop the bottom of this, and this comes right out. And then you've got these individual cloves. The idea is to keep skin on each one. Doesn't always happen that way, but they are protected better. You don't want to take the skin off if you can help it. None of these are soft. Like the side of this is missing some skin, but that's okay. So there we go. So this head I got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, technically this is 2, 10. Some of these are smaller. Some people, what they'll do is they'll actually save the smaller ones to cook with and plant only the big ones. I'm just gonna plant them all because I got them. I've already separated the rest of this because you don't want to watch me separate all these. And we're gonna get these planted. So here we go. People sell fancy things called dibblers. It's basically a fancy stick with a nice point on the end to make holes. This is just a piece of cedar, or juniper rather, that I'm gonna use because I don't want to spend the money. I don't have one. I mean, I don't know. If someone gave me a fancy dibbler, I guess I would use it, but this will be fine. So I got my spacer out here. Same spacing, I'm doing 4-inch spacing. These beds are a little bit narrower than those other ones. As you can see, so I'm gonna get basically, leaves are in the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 this direction. And we'll see. I don't know how many, I should have counted how many eggs I broke apart. But I have a bunch. We'll see. Oh, I can count the number, no. Count the number of bases. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it looks like I did 6 heads of music garlic. Here we go. I'm figuring I'm gonna have at least 6 rows here across, because 6 heads, I bet it's gonna be more than that. Go ahead and dibble, make holes for, what, 2, 4, 6. Oh, 6. All right, let's make it 7. Let's see how this goes. All right, here we go. Look at all this. These are the tops that I broke off. More tops. Confirm this is indeed music. You can see, there's all my cloves. Here we go. Make sure you put the root end down. You want the pointy end up. Make sure there's the root end. You want that down, pointy end up. I guess I haven't tried planting it like this, but normally it grows like this, so I think that's going to be better. Try, if you can, to split these off, because if you leave a tiny one attached, what happens is then it grows and competes with your nice big one. And I'd rather them be in separate holes, each acting like their own plant rather than row 5. And see, sometimes like here's one where the paper's coming off. That one may not make, but I'm gonna plant it anyway. It's a big old clove. Look how big that one is. When I was looking at heads to select from, I did choose the biggest heads. All right, awesome. How many more do I have here? I think I have one more row, basically. So I chose the biggest heads to pull from. Some people will then also choose the biggest cloves. I don't have enough seed stock at this point to do that, but starting next year, I will become far more selective, I think, and start selecting. I'm also gonna bring in other seed stock. There's a company, his website's called Garlicana, and he does garlic, all sorts of cool garlic varieties that I would love to try. All right, so I don't want to start a whole new row. Here's 2 more here. Big old rock. Let's get rid of the rock. So I have 2 rows with 10 instead of. Anyway, all right, so that's all my music. So if I've got 9 in a row, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times 9, 72, plus 2, 74. So that's 74 right here, and then I've obviously saved some back that I'll plant in the spring as well, just for curiosity's sake, and to continue the experiment. There we go, 8 rows of music. Now time to do the rest. All right, I had 4 heads of Siberian that I took apart. Let's see how many cloves we get. I really like the flavor of Siberian. It's a little more pungent, and it produces decent sized cloves. Again, because of the amount I have, I'm not really differentiating and planting at all. Next year, I should have enough. I hope to be more selective. All right. So 2, 4, 6 rows. There's one missing here because of the strawberry plant, which is fine. So 9 times 6 is 54, 53. All right. Looks like I have 5 heads of Lore's Italian. I want to show you. So this is a soft neck, so it doesn't have that hard neck through the center. All it has is just a soft kind of paper till the top of the cloves, and the cloves fill out the center. And these are not, some of these are not nearly as big, much smaller set of cloves, but still has a good flavor. I'm gonna plant them. Depending on what my wife thinks, we may phase this out just because they're smaller and more effort, basically, to cook with. But it's what I got this year, and I'd rather use them so I have something rather than nothing at all. All right, do you remember how many heads I told you I had of Lore's Italian? I think I said 5 or 6. But to give you an illustration of the size of those cloves inside that head and how many more there are because they're smaller, I got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 rows times 9. So that's 99. That's 99 cloves planted. That would be turned into, you know. So basically that's double what I got over here with 2 different varieties, simply because it's a soft neck, the cloves are smaller, and it's just the way it is. So we'll see how this turns out. So what that means is, I can't remember exactly how many. So I basically just planted almost 200 cloves of garlic, which will turn into almost 200 heads, assuming they all survive, etc., which is really exciting. And this is just the November planting. Now, you may be asking, why on earth am I planting so much? 1, because I have it. 2, because while, okay, let's say I were to use a whole head of garlic each week in cooking. We use a lot of garlic, but that's probably the max we would use. That's only 50 heads. Well, what are we going to use the rest for? We use a lot of, my trash is blowing away in the wind. We use a lot of garlic powder. So later in the winter, as things have slowed down, my goal is I'm going to take a lot that I have in storage and dry it down and then blend it, and or maybe I'll chop it first and then blend it, or then dry it. I haven't figured that out. But anyway, make garlic powder, dried garlic. That's one reason. 2, so I can give it away or sell it, probably give it away. And 3, because garlic is really good as a medicinal, has medicinal properties. And so I want to have some for that purpose, going into fire cider and other things. Just would like to have it. And the other thing is, I want to next year start to kind of more select my stock a little bit more. For example, only select the larger heads, only select the larger cloves out of those heads. And so I want to be more selective, in which case I want to have more stock to pull from. So for all those reasons, I'm doing that. Again, last year I planted both in November and in January. I'm going to do the same this year, Lord willing. And hopefully see the same results. Hopefully see that the November planting produces a better crop than my January planting does, but we'll see. We just had our first frost and freeze of the season. Got down to about 23, I believe, for a couple of nights. Went above freezing during the day. So we're definitely solidly in fall. Winter is coming. But we have at least a week or so where the nights are above freezing. Some days will get up into the low 70s or upper 60s. So it's going to warm up some. I think these, both the onions, the shallots, and the garlic will have a chance to, in the warmer-ish soil, hopefully start to grow just a little bit, put some roots down, and be ready for the winter. But, you know, we'll see how this goes. I have no control over the weather. That's up to the Lord. But try to prepare these as best as possible, and do some other things in the garden.